In this video, I want to continue with the customization of WP e-commerce. And now we're going to get pretty technical. We're going to get into some PHP a little bit here and definitely some template changes. So this isn't for the faint of heart, definitely. All right, we've made some visual changes using our style sheet, both in the WP e-commerce style sheet and in the WordPress theme that we're using. So we've got things looking a little more the way we want them. Not fully, and I'll show you how we can do some more here. But now what we want to do is actually change the layout. And for example, I want to take this area here, specifications. This is custom metadata that you can add to a product. And I don't want it up here, especially if I'm going to have a fair bit of it. I don't want it all up top here. I want to move it down below underneath here. Okay, so in order to do that, I've actually got to change the template for this page. And the way I do that is I go over to here and I go to my settings for my store. All right, and I go under presentation. Remember, this is where we moved, and it shows us here that it's been copied over. The default CSS has been copied over. Now we're going to copy over the template that runs this particular page over here. All right. Now we know that this is the single product page because it's the single product. We're just looking at one product at a time here. So we'll check that off. Okay. And then I'm going to, it says move template files, but again, we're just copying them. Okay. And now what I'm going to find is I come over to here and I go to my editor again. I've got to refresh it here because now it's going to show me that this single product has been moved over, okay, copied over. All right, so I go to it, and now I'm looking at the actual template from WP e-commerce. Again, it's a copy of the original. So if you ever wanted to go back to the layout that was originally in WP e-commerce, you could simply get rid of this file, okay? You don't even have to change the file, just get rid of it. It will revert back to using the one in WP e-commerce. Okay, so this is where it gets tricky. You want to be very, very sure you know what you're doing in here. You're messing with the PHP itself and the way the whole template functions. So what I want to do is I'm going to find the area here. And in fact, they've labeled it for us, which is nice. We've got custom meta HTML and loop. Okay, so that's where the custom metadata is going to go. Now, this is where you have to be careful to grab the right items. So I can see the beginning here of the PHP tag. I'm going to grab this. And now I can see it says close custom metadata, the end if statement, right? That's the end if of this if statement here. So now I've got everything I need. If you only grab part of it, you're going to mess up the whole layout. So you have to be very careful about what it is you're taking. I'm going to cut it, delete it, and I'm going to take it down to the bottom here. Now, you'll want to have gone through this in some detail to know exactly what you're doing and where you're moving. And I've been through this, and I didn't want to take all the time to do the detail work. But if you come down here, you're going to see where it actually says end of product column. You see close product column. If we go over to here, this is the image column here, and this is the product column. And we would know that from having looked at our CSS from before. So I come back to here. I know I'm at the end of my product column. Now I want to create a new div so that I can control it with CSS more easily. Div class equals additional dash information. Okay, so that's my new div that I just created. Let me paste in what I had from before. And then I have to make sure I close off my div. The div's important if I want to say color it or space it. I need control, and that's where I give it the additional div. Okay, so now I update my file, and we come over to here. Now, remember, this is what we're moving, the specifications. And I refresh my page. Now, nothing happened. And this can be confusing at first, but the point is that we have to go over here to one more thing under here. And this isn't very clear, I must say, in WP e-commerce. There's a little button down here, and it says, if you've moved, copied your files in some other way, like with FTP, you may need to click this Flush Theme Cache. And this affects where WordPress looks for your templates. Now, of course, we didn't use FTP, we used their own system, but you still need to hit Flush Theme Cache, it turns out. So let's do that. We hit Flush Theme Cache, and now when we go back, it will actually be moved. So now it's looking for the WP e-commerce template for this page in our theme, and it's not looking for it in WP e-commerce. And that's why our changes, and you can see it here, our changes have been put in. Notice if I go here and inspect element, because I gave it its own div with a class, remember that I put additional information, and I can go in here and I'm going to add an element style to it, and I'm going to give it a margin, let's say, 60 pixels. Okay, so now, I made it extra big so you can see, but there we can control its spacing relative to the other elements on the page. So that way we've been able to change the actual layout of the page itself. Now the other part of this that's very important, when we go into this theme, let me get rid of my inspector here. The other element that I find is very, very important to all of this is to be able to give more fine-grained CSS naming. So I'll give you the example. Remember over here, these are all named the same way. And so you couldn't target, say, old price versus price. What we can do in our template here is change the CSS naming. So we find price display. For example, we could add another name in here, for example, to give ourselves the ability to more finely grain the CSS, to get in there and target exactly what it is we want. So that's one of the other advantages to editing. Even if you didn't change the layout of this template, you could change the naming of things so that you can do exactly what you want in terms of styling. So that's one of the advantages of going in here and copying over some of these template files into your own theme to make sure your store looks exactly the way you want.